Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We're going to call this meeting to order, and I'd like to ask Ms. Anaya to read the Open Public Meetings Act statement, please.
On Wednesday, February 26, 2020, notice of this meeting was mailed to the press and the Current of Egg Harbor Township. Notice was also delivered that day to the Egg Harbor Township clerk and posted on the bulletin board in Township Hall.
Thank you. May we have roll call?
Mr. Delabarca.
Here.
Mr. Ellis. Mrs. Gilbert Floyd. Mr. Price.
Here.
Mrs. Sullivan.
Here.
Mrs. Summer.
Here.
Mrs. Salagi.
Here.
Mrs. Byrd.
Here.
And Mr. Castellano.
Here. I did hear from Mrs. Gilbert Floyd. She will be running a few minutes late. Can we please stand for the flag salute, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the second of our series of budget meetings, which will make up our budget process for this year. Before I turn it over to our administration for a continuation of our budget presentation, I want to just say a quick word about state aid. Of course, we're very pleased that we got additional state aid this year in the amount of $6 million. That's a result of a serious, sustained lobbying effort on our part that's been ongoing. It goes all year round. We reach out to members of the legislature, to members of the executive branch, as well as testifying when appropriate before the legislature. However, even with the additional aid that's coming in, we're still nowhere near where we need to be to catch up. During this current school year, we're $28.5 million below formula funding, and our budget sits at $15 million below adequacy. So we have a long way to go. But our efforts will continue. So with that, I'm going to turn the presentation now over to our superintendent for a couple of components and then our budget.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Castellano. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We have a few things on the agenda tonight that I feel is important to cover because I have the camera and I'm able to reach another audience outside this room and outside the text messages and social media messages that we sent out. I just want to give an update on the coronavirus. We just got off the phone with the governor's office, also on that phone call with the New Jersey Department of Health. We've had communications with the county office, our school physician, our school nurses. Basically what it comes down to is right now there are no known proven cases in the state of New Jersey. The testing kits have arrived to New Jersey and testing can take place if needed. But what we are sticking with are the basics. It is not a time of panic, but it is a time to be prepared. Just reminders of good hygiene in terms of washing hands for 20 to 30 seconds, staying home from work or school if you're sick, basically cleaning off surfaces and just good hygiene, staying clean, staying safe, being sanitized. We emailed, I have an email out twice to our staff. We have social media posts for reminders. We met with our Facilities, Transportation, Food Services, and Securities Department and went over our cleaning and sanitizing protocols. Great thing is that we do clean and sanitize our schools, particularly during this time of the year, which we deem as flu season. We are taking those extra precautions. Knowing that we also have a biosecurity plan and our district policy 8451 that we can look at. And for the board, I put that link on your part of the presentation. It's control of communicable diseases. We will continue the cleaning and sanitizing. We've had discussion about preparedness for epidemic outbreaks, and there is now a letter posted on our website and reaching parents right now as I speak through social media outreach. Okay? In that letter, there's also links for parents to go to. Okay, let's move on. Part of our presentation tonight, our budget presentation, is our full-day kindergarten plan. Back in November, last fall, I made a statement that we would be, once the board gave me approval, I would be presenting a full-day kindergarten plan. Just start off.
It's a beautiful day in EHT, a lovely day in EHT. Sign up online, just sign up online. The time to register is here. You'll be going to kindergarten next year, so sign up online, just sign up online. We've always wanted to have a student just like you. We always wanted to have a school with you. So let's make today a beautiful day to learn and grow and play today. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? EHT class of 33.
This is an example of the time, the passion, and the participation that went in to the work of full-day kindergarten, where we've embraced and engaged in this project. We're very serious about it, and we know that the township has spoken about full-day kindergarten, the importance of it. And that began with our strategic plan. How many people here were part of the strategic planning process? All right, so you were here when we met one night at the high school, one night at Fernwood, one night at Davenport, and I think you heard clearly and saw over 100 people in attendance and who were outspoken and clear to us that full-day kindergarten was a need. And when we broke down into the groups, we talked about, why is it so important? We heard a lot of feedback, so we took that seriously. That was my first year of superintendent. Once that plan got approved by the Board of Education, we took a year to look, to listen to the feedback, and then this year we put a plan into action, beginning with town hall meetings. And we had those 3 community meetings. How many people attended those community meetings? Okay, nice to see you again. And at those meetings, we talked about the rationale for full-day kindergarten. We had fears, we had hopes, we looked at schedules. We talked about a preschool grant. We talked about enrollment, class size, the impact on transportation, on food services, personnel, what resources would we need, what supplies, could this actually happen here in Egg Harbor Township? And we did some preliminary research, got the go-ahead from the board. Aligned with the strategic plan, my staff spent a lot of time walking through schools, looking at maps, researching all these areas. And I stood here a couple weeks ago and said, board, it fits. And when we do the numbers on the paper, we'll be able to share with you a plan that has been able to fit in the budget for next year. So I just want to quickly review why full-day kindergarten. There's 584 school districts in the state of New Jersey. 40 of those school districts have half-day kindergarten. We're one of them. So I'm not asking for a unicorn here. I'm asking to be a part of the majority of the school districts who have full-day kindergarten. Full-day kindergarten is about equity. It's about providing a great start for all students in a full-day arena. It closes the gap. Research tells us it closes the gap for students, particularly students with language barriers. 1980 versus today, I put that up there because back in the day, I know even when I was growing up, it was way before 1980, I stayed at home with mom. No one ever heard of daycare or preschool, those things, but that's the norm now. I know my kids were in preschool by 3 years old, and there was full day, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, full day kindergarten. So a lot of our students are in preschool all day long, and then actually we've kind of break that trend with our half-day program, and then they come back into a first-grade full-day program. Full-day kindergarten teaches our students how to be social, and it improves student achievement, and it's really deemed a quality education. The next line, where it's remedial prevention, being proactive and trying to help students at an early age. And we're seeing that. A lot of our issues right now in the second and third grade is we're trying to get kids caught up. One, I believe, is that they don't have that full day kindergarten. Two, I believe that they're coming from different providers, daycare providers or kindergartens with different curriculums. So it takes a while for students to get on track. So we will be able, with full day kindergarten, to prevent that, okay? So it is an investment in really cutting down on the remedial services that we need. If our students are coming in full day kindergarten, we have them kindergarten year, we have them that first grade year, and they can be in line with the curriculum and the programs that we have. Full day kindergarten provides more jobs for our parents. I had parents come up to me and say, I got to go to work. I need to have a full-time job. It would really save me a lot of money for daycare as well. And basically, it's an investment in our future, investing in our students and preparing them to be students in the Egg Harbor Township School District. Last but not least, we talked about the pre-K grant. The preschool grant, we cannot apply for that. We cannot receive those extra funds, those supporting funds, if we do not have full-day kindergarten. And I just want to share with the board and the public the money and the funds that school districts who have applied and received the preschool grant, the money that they have been receiving to support preschool. There in Atlantic County, notice you don't see Egg Harbor Township. We're not up there because we don't have full-day kindergarten. Having full-day kindergarten will allow us to apply for the preschool aid, will allow us to receive extra aid for our students. I have some research here that we found in our readings. We found in not only journals, some websites, but also some information I had from previous research. But children who attend full-day kindergarten learn more in reading and math over kindergarten year than those in the half-day program. There's more time that can be spent to assist them. Children in full-day kindergarten programs receive 40 to 50% more instruction than children enrolled in half-day. That makes sense. More instructional time in full-day kindergarten allows for increased learning activities and strategies, such as the group read allows, peer tutoring, mixed ability groups, and child-initiated activities. Children who attend full-day kindergarten spend 30% more time on reading and literacy, which is our goal, and 46% more time on mathematics than children in half-day. Very, very important areas, reading and math. Full-day kindergartens exhibit more independent learning, classroom involvement, productivity, and work with peers. That's a social piece and reflectiveness than half-day kindergartens. This is my research that supports that. Children's Defense Fund. When they're looking at early childhood, they define a problem. And that problem, you could all read this, has a solution. One of the solutions that policymakers and community leaders ensure that every child needs a high-quality early childhood education, and full-day kindergarten is one of the solutions to that. Full-day kindergarten policy belief, what research says is that full-day kindergarten contributes to school readiness, it leads to higher academic achievement, improves school attendance, supports literacy and language development, benefits children socially and emotionally, and decreases costs by reducing the retention and remedial rates that schools have. Okay, these are all facts that are supported by research, all facts that we are finding that are positives. When I looked, and everybody says there's always another side of the coin. I looked at what are the negatives of full-day kindergarten. There weren't many. Kids should stay home with their parents. That would be nice if that's affordable in this day and age. And that's basically all I found, except maybe homeschooling. If anyone has any counters, I welcome them. Details for 2021 full-day kindergarten enrollment expectations. Enrollment has been open. We are taking registrations. We even extended it based on the birth rates and what we're seeing. Our number, if you were part of the planning, went from 500 to 440 students at 20 students per class. Facilities, no need to build anything new. We can use our current facilities. The cost of changing our non-instructional spaces to classrooms, as you'll see as we go through the presentation. Food services, 4 lunch periods versus 3 to handle the volume. And transportation needs to add 6 additional runs to cover more students. And we're working on that already this year. Curricular resources. All the supervisors met with us. They provided their budgets for each classroom and each student. And those areas for included resources needed in math, ELA, and science. And all the other areas, based on our research, had the appropriate materials. Our classroom setup, which was not all areas, are identified that may or may not currently be used as kindergarten classrooms, and some will need some of the following considerations. So we had to walk through and see what we needed. We had to meet with principals. We had to walk through storage closets, dig deep to see how many extra teacher desks, chairs, student tables, etc. that we would need. And our kindergarten locations are planned to be at the Swift School, Slayball, and Davenport primary buildings. This is just an example of a full-day schedule. Just an example. Of course, it goes to the principal. It's the principal's autonomy based on the teachers and scheduling that they have in their building, but this is just an example of what we look to provide our students. ELA, math, special areas, time for socialization. Curricular resources and supplies, we had shared with the planning group, numbers back in the fall. These are refined numbers. These are numbers that we looked at through the budgeting process and are able to share. What am I doing?
You just have to refresh for a second. Just go for a second.
I didn't know we were frozen.
Everybody close your eyes.
Okay, these are like I said, the exact totals of the supplies and resources that we need. Our classroom conversions, looking at some classrooms that need to get installation of smart boards, teacher and student furniture, filing cabinets and facilities. Here's your final cost there. And our staffing needs, I'll turn that over to the Director of Human Resources.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board, members of the community. Dr. Gritcho, can I grab that clicker from you? So one of the biggest challenges we had as a central office team is how do you take on all the new costs of full-day kindergarten and still be honest to the needs of non-kindergarten students and staff. Okay, so when we went to the town hall meeting, if you remember, it was based on 500 students, and that would be 20 sections. We have 5 current kindergarten teachers, so it would be 15 new classroom regular education teachers. Okay, since then, as Dr. Guccio mentioned, the estimate is at 440, so that's 17 sections minus our current 5, so that would be 12 sections that we have to fill. So you might be looking at 4 classroom teachers and saying, why is it 4, why is it not 12? Okay, well, we look for economies of scale in staffing and class size because, again, we're trying to put all the needs of a budget and full-day kindergarten and make sure everything works out the way it needs to work out in terms of the budget. So what we did was we found some class size efficiencies and staffing efficiencies in grades 1 through 4. Okay, and I'm going to show you that up here. Okay, so right now you see the grade levels, the class sizes 21, 21, 21, and 22. Okay, in terms of taking 2 staff members from each grade level, grades 1 through 4, that would be 8. Okay, so you have 17 minus 5 is 12 minus 8 from here, and that's where you come up with the 4 teachers left. You see where the class sizes would go to next year. Okay, and typically in grades 1 through 4, one staff member represents one average student in class size. Okay, so you can see it goes up 2 from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. Okay, now I know we have teachers in the audience tonight. You might be saying to yourself, well, what does that mean to me? Does that mean I'm going to get moved into kindergarten? That's one of the reasons I had mentioned to the board I was going to put out the request early this year, and you saw that, the transfer request. And I have some data for the board as well in terms of those transfer requests. So if you look at, there are 21, there's more than 21, but these are the kindergarten requests. Okay, there are 21 requests from other grade levels in terms of wanting to teach full-day kindergarten. So you can see pre-K 3, 1st grade 8, 2nd grade 2, 3rd grade 2, 4th grade 2, 6th grade 2, and 7th grade 2, even some higher grade levels, people that are certified that wanted to move to full-day kindergarten. Okay, so that kind of gives you some data on the question. No, it's not a matter of making people teach kindergarten. We have people in our district that very much want to teach kindergarten full day. Okay, so if you look at those grade level efficiencies, we have the staff that are already interested in filling those positions. Okay. So going back, there's also 3 in-class resource or resource room teachers that Mr. Davis in the special education department identified as necessary. 2 health and PE teachers, you need to facilitate health and PE for kindergarten. And then 2 full-time specials and 2 part-time specials, art, music, things that students need in addition. And also, if you think about it, a kindergarten teacher needs a break as well. They have their specials while the kindergarten teacher would be off for lunch and the ability to prep for those students. Okay, so it all works out through the schedule. Okay, so there's going to be 11 full-time and 2 specials at this point part-time. Okay, take a look at the cost for that. 11 full-time certified, that salary of step 1 bachelor's level for next year, 2021, $54,017 for a total of $594,187. 11 family benefits packages, which are now an exact number at $38,837, excuse me, estimate, not an exact, $427,207. And then the 2 part-time certified, those are not benefit positions. So that would be $91,829. Okay, so that brings out the total staffing cost, new staffing cost for full-day kindergarten to $1,113,223. That's a significant reduction from when we were at the town hall meeting back in November. And then I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Gruccia. This is a cumulative slide for all the costs.
Cumulative slide, bringing in your personnel, that number was stated, our curricular number, the facilities costs, the resources needed. In the fall, actually I think in December with the board, I shared that the estimated cost was about $2.8 million based on the research and work that we have done. And when I tell you a lot of work was done, we were able to present, I am able to present to you full day kindergarten at 1.533491. And that is in the budget that you will hear Chandra present. So far, we had an interest survey. We heard about who was interested. We had open enrollment. We had between December and February, we had folks enrolled. We encouraged more to do so. We are making preparations for the 2021 budget. On February 14th, the formal registration closed, but I know you're looking to do something with that. And in spring 2020, as I stated last fall, we would present to the Board of Education and the school community full-day kindergarten. It could happen. It could work. So that is a piece, a precursor to our budget presentation tonight because it's included in there, and once you go through your binders, you'll see where that is. Preschool expansion grant, there's more information to come, but I will share once again, in discussions with the Assistant Commissioner of the state of New Jersey, she has said to us and put us in contact with her advisors of the preschool expansion grant project that we can implement full-day kindergarten and apply for the preschool grant. So that could all happen after July 1. Once we do what we have to do here. So welcome to full-day kindergarten. It is in the budget. And with that, we're going to present to you the proposed budget. Thank you.
Before we move to budget, I'm going to see if any board members have any questions for Dr. Gruccia on that portion.
I do. I have a couple of questions. I know when you put up the schedule, you just said it was just, one rough schedule. But I noticed was that tailored to EHT? I noticed the start time was different than first through third grade. Okay, so the kindergarten is not going to have a different schedule than first, second, third. Okay.
Timetable so people could
Good
see.
eye.
Gotcha.
what day it is.
Okay.
Well, it's 8:15 to 8:30. Buses do arrive starting around 10:15. They just usually are sitting and waiting until.
No, that's Miller, right. I thought they didn't start till 9 or 9:15.
You're correct.
Okay.
It's been a long time.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure they were on the same schedule.
I'm thinking
Okay.
about a different schedule that we're.
My next question was for class sizes. I saw the slide with this class sizes for first, second, third grade. Was kindergarten up there also, the projected class sizes?
No, it's not on the slide.
So what is the projected class size
We
for?
were using 20 as the divisor.
So this is, my only concern is starting the year at 20 in kindergarten and then 21, 22 in second grade. Possibly was it up to 23? Now that's not even including, that's your projected, so that's not even including any, so that would be the max. So not, what happens, when you have new enrollments, we're transient district, new enrollments coming in and out throughout the school year, how high could the class size potentially be? I know, I'm just concerned that 22, 23, potentially in a kindergarten, first grade classroom is a lot of students. Do you plan on having any kind of aid for the kindergarten classes?
If you hit 26, you have to.
It's only for,
25.
but not considering it with less than that.
I do want all valid points. In order to kick this off and start this the first year, there may be some struggles, there may be some larger class sizes, but once we get it in, we get that preschool grant, we get that assistance, we can look the next year of this, trying to, but this is the way that we were able to squeeze it in. Yes.
Anything else on?
I just wanted to ask, I didn't know if it's inclusive of inclusion, pull our resource when it comes to the kindergarten, like the special ed population that would be possibly identified in these services. That's the only thing I'm thinking
Mr.
about.
Davis, Special Ed Director.
Well, we have our roll-up of preschool inclusion students, so we will have inclusion as well as resource because we do have some preschool students that are, as they move up into kindergarten, we need to give them more support. So we thought that it was important to have both layers to be able to give them the resources they need.
With 2 staff members of that.
Yes,
With the additional 2 staff members?
yes.
Okay, I was just thinking about that because I just know if it was included in the one. Yes. That
Yes.
large number, 1 million? Okay, 5, okay.
Go ahead, Chris.
My question was also in reference to this slide. I'm concerned that our first grade teachers will be getting kindergartners who have been participating in a half-day program next year. And while I know that our kindergarten teachers do a fabulous job, many kids will come in with some deficiencies because of the nature of a half-day program. So I worry, looking at that class size of 23 to begin with, that our first grade teachers are going to be dealing with students below grade level in reading. Their literacy skills will not be what they are supposed to be. Not all, of course, but we have many ELL students. We have many students from disadvantaged homes. I'm concerned. So is there a way for us to, for the next school year, build in something, another teacher, to lessen that class size until we have that full day program and they're rolling into those grades having a full day of kindergarten instruction?
Say that again.
From the beginning? No,
No,
just
no,
kidding.
no. Just the last part. Is there a way?
So
Just make
is
them
there a
shake their
way
head
to have another have another teacher or more than one teacher in the first grade positions, because they're inheriting kids who have been in a half-day program for next year?
Part of that answer would be that they're doing that now. They get kids that are coming in. That's why our first grade teachers do such a good job. They've been
I
getting
understand
half-day kids for 50 years,
I understand that, but their class sizes are high.
No, it's the same height.
but they've been having that situation over the
This
years
class you're
too.
looking at right there has 23 kids in the class. That class up there.
Okay, but we're recognizing that a half-day program leaves kids deficient. So as we're entering the budget season, then I'm asking, can we provide more teachers? As a kindergarten
Not in this
teacher,
budget.
I understand.
Not in this budget.
Okay?
I have one.
I'm going to just interrupt. I'm just going to ask that one person speak at a time. Please ask to be recognized. Let's use our microphones and all that.
Question, please.
Yes.
Thank you. How much extra state aid is anticipated with full-day kindergarten to the district, and when would that kick in?
The preschool grant is for preschool, and that would kick in once we would start it, which we anticipate possibly October.
And do you have an amount? You don't. We don't have an amount.
The governor did say in his address that he was funding 30 more school districts.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, board members? I want to thank Dr. Gruccio for that portion of the presentation, which I think was fantastic. And now we will move to our budget portion.
I do need a microphone, and I don't walk around, sorry. I need a microphone. I was not a phys ed teacher, so I have that voice. So welcome to Budget 2021 2.0 on this lovely evening in the spring. I fixed my budget, my buckets from the last meeting. I made them real buckets, and I clarified which buckets are which. We are going to be talking about Fund 10 primarily in this budget presentation, although Fund 40 is also part of the big picture budget. So let's get to the bottom, or the top really, the revenue. Revenue year to year. I threw this comparative up because the 17-18 school year was really the first year we got additional state aid. So I wanted to just show and highlight the different sources of revenue over the years. Oh, excuse me, Mrs. Shoemaker, can you please hand out the binders? We want to hear the presentation for kindergarten without distraction, so we held them, but we're going to get them out to you. This is page 1 in your binders. We are going to go through budget binders are given to each board member. There's 4 for the community, and we will also have things projected for your reference. So basically the highlight I like on this slide, and is shown on an image on the next slide, is the tax levy going from 2017-18 over the last, this is the 4th year now, is about $5.5 million increase, which is a lot. However, state aid has gone up about $12.5 million. So it looks like it's closing the gap, and here is the visual to show you. My pie pictures. State aid is red, state aid is blue. The tax levy is red, and the other is green. If you can see the pie to the left versus the pie to the right over the last 3 to 4 years, we've actually had a bigger piece of the pie in the levy versus the state aid. The state aid versus the levy. The state aid is coming in bigger, therefore taking a bigger piece of our budget pie. State aid details. Just year to year, this is something we always talk about. We just don't say we're underfunded. We're actually showing how and what that means. State aid is a formula. It takes into consideration the average household income in Egg Harbor Township, the population in Egg Harbor Township, our student enrollment. It takes a bunch of things into consideration. It's a beautiful formula. If it just gets funded properly, we would get what we would need. For example, state aid we've received over the years is in the first column. The uncapped aid, meaning what we should be getting, is in the second column to show that over the last 5 budget years, we should have had an additional $130 million, and think of what we could have done for our students had that come in. So I just wanted to highlight, it's not just words, we truly are not getting funded to the formula. Levy detail, okay, so in this budget, we are going to cap. We are going to cap, and you will see exactly why in just a few moments. And I know this is a big question, I want to just get it out the way in the beginning. We're going to cap as the bottom number of a 2% increase, which is a 4.45 cent increase, translating into an annual increase based on different households' valuation. As an example, a $200,000 home with us going to cap will increase $89 over the year for all the wonderful things we're about to show you. Rollover, state aid. Talk about stretching a dollar. We stretched pennies. I was trying to find coins to really stretch just to show, yes, we got an additional state aid of $6 million, but in 2 short lines, I will tell you the salaries, including full-day kindergarten, new staff requests, come to $4.9 million. That's just rolling over our current staff plus the personnel piece you're going to hear in a little bit. We also, every year, the surplus we speak about, when we're done our budget at the end of the year, if we don't spend everything or if we get more money in, that gets applied to 2 budgets later. Our budgets are getting tighter. We are becoming very data-driven. We're becoming very efficient with our budgeting, and it's very, very tight. So it's less and less every year. So there's your money for state aid, but we're going to go into more detail of exactly how that happened. The binders. Here's binder orientation for our wonderful board members. You're going to have it in this order. The first couple pages have to deal with revenue sources, the charts I've shown, the tax levy information, and the fiscal impact to the taxpayer, along with a big chunk of detailed expenses we're going to kind of go through. And then the personnel pages behind that. And the very, very last page is lease purchase detail we're going to talk about when we get to facilities. Okay, so far so good. We'll get your binders out and follow along. We're really going to do an orientation. Get your pens out. You are going to get this presentation in a PDF form, so you can also reference it later, but I want to walk you through what is in that binder. And the copies are in the community, you guys can do the same. So if you go to after the first white flap is the expense pages. So everything is an account number and they go in number order. So the first set of account numbers is the 11-000-100. This covers all tuition expenses, be it transient students, special ed placements, vocational schools, charter schools. That whole section of 11-000-100. There's some highlights on this slide. For example, special ed budgeted 64 students at a district in 1920, however, 70 for 2021. Charter school, we've been talking about charter school, breaking our budgets for years. Guess what? We're finally stable. At a stable point, it's 153 of our own students going to charters, but at least it wasn't an astronomical increase over the year like it has been over the last 5 years. ACIT, again, our projected enrollment has increased. We are at 182 right now. We're projected at 190 going to ACIT next year. However, their tuition adjustment is less. Just like after we close out our budget, we can apply savings to future years. When the tech school closes their budget, they say, it cost us more to run our school this year, so we're gonna charge you in 2 years. That tuition adjustment has been $500,000 at times. This year, it's only $270 or something along those lines, which is a huge difference in ACIT total tuition, so that line is down just a hair because of that. Next set of numbers, if we're ready to move on. 11-000-211, this is attendance. Resources staff needed to maintain attendance in our district, including truant officers, attendant officers, and the whole central registration department. Slight increase, we're going to be putting some new chairs into the central registration office. Since we've gone with online registration, we are going to have to support our community and have them sit with a computer. Not a big increase, but just a hair up there. Next set of numbers is the 213 accounts. If I'm going too fast, just push pause. Somebody put your hand up. This is the nursing and health lines. This is all of our nursing staff, nursing resources. When we have to take drug screen tests for some students if there's an issue, all of that comes out of this chunk of money in here. 216 is called related services. Specifically, think of speech, OT, PT. We have, later in this proposal, you'll see some increases in personnel and OT, PT, specifically because of the number of students served. We gave you some data on this slide you guys can cross-reference later. After 216 is 217, extraordinary services. We do get a state aid in the form of extraordinary service aid. It doesn't come until the summer. After you close out your year, you tell the state when you have spent more than $50,000 on any particular student to educate them, Let's use an example. I have a special ed student who has a one-to-one aide, and they also have a specific monitor. They also have to have a specific nurse one-to-one. All of these other resources, it's extraordinary services. Anything over $50,000 we get to ask the state for. They give us a percentage of a percentage of a percentage in the form of a state aid payment in the summer. All of those extraordinary service expenses are in that line. That is also where you're going to find your ratio aids. As the board sometimes approves ratio versus compliance, that's where you'll find that extraordinary service. Good so far? Yep. Good. 218, Guidance Department. This has to do with archiving students' records, any the Naviance program in the high school, so the high school students can look at colleges and track their SAT scores, IQ testing for the lower grades. 219 is Child Study Team. Child Study Team specifically having to do with, I think they do test materials. I see they're testing materials. They're also going to be replacing laptops. We actually pulled that into a lease purchase just because they really don't have working laptops that we found out. So we're working on that. They're sharing right now, and they're using baby Chromebooks, which work but not 100% or something. So they're going to be getting that upgrade. Overall, this is where this social worker, remind me, who's in there? Psychologists, case managers, all that stuff. All the stuff to run the Child Study Team department. The 11-221 accounts have to do specifically with curricular support and facilitating. Curricular support are your curricular supervisors. That's where their stuff, not their supplies are, but where they are charged, where they have, if they need a supply for their own administrative purposes, anything to help facilitate. A facilitating teacher at Swift is also charged there. 222 is library and AVA. Some highlights in this budget have to do with the upgrade of the high school stadium sound system. We kind of patched it. This has a more permanent fix in there. TV studio services, in order for the high school studio to be able to live stream for district events such as graduation. We are going to talk a little bit later about the lease purchase and technology and our Chrome initiative. With that, we have to increase our bandwidth to support all of the technology in the district. And that's also in that budget. 11-223. This 223 account specifically is about staffing, keeping your staffing, training your staffing, have to do with summer curricular hours and professional development. Our HR director, who is in charge of staffing, is also in that group, and that's specifically to the 223 lines. Am I going okay? Too fast, too slow? Good. Next, we have the 230 accounts. Specifically, this is where you're going to find superintendent resources as well as Board of Education. For example, the auditing services are in there. HR services that have to do with our AppleTrack software. When we have onboarding costs, anything like that to actually by the board and superintendent's specific areas. Our JIF renewal for student accident, that sort of thing. Next is 240, that's our building administration. So you have the superintendent taking care of her stuff, then you actually have building level administrators, principals, vice principals, things they need in their offices and their resources for their buildings, and their budgets pretty much came in flat. 251 is the business office. I call it /district services because in that is a lot of the software that is purchased for the business side of schools. For example, our HR software, our finance software. The business office is responsible for funding the copier lease payments in teachers' lounges versus the building principal is responsible for the one in their business, in their front office. So you'll see copy leases in two different areas. And we are looking to replace our chairs in the business office since we were 12 years old. We've done like 3 so far, but I have like 4 more in there because they're old and they're falling apart. But we managed for the rest of this year. 252, District Computer Tech Services. This is specifically district-wide technology, think of the bones of technology. So it's going to be our internet, our access points, fun stuff like that. It takes a lot to run this district, huh? Next is 261. Is our specifically required maintenance of buildings. It is the maintenance budget. And I want to just highlight some things that you're going to see in the book. So We identified a whole lot in the facilities presentation, and we broke them out into categories. What can be done this year? What can be done next year? What can be done through a lease purchase? What can be done through a capital reserve project? And what has to be done probably through a referendum or an ESIP or something like that, some other source of funding. So this is required maintenance that we identified. Fiscal year 20 is right now, that we're gonna get done hopefully this spring. Fiscal year 21 is actually in your budget lines for next year. And facilities as a whole came in under but flat, outside of some solar improvements. We have to now start maintaining our solar panels. They've been, they're like 12 to 15 years old. We've been maintaining it with the regular budget, but we realized this past year they're getting older and we should allot some fixed money and track how much we're spending on solar repairs. That's the only increase in their department. Then we have custodial building supplies. Custodial department is different from the maintenance department. Maintenance is I'm maintaining the building. Custodial is I'm cleaning, changing a light bulb type of, also their uniforms for each of the locations. After 262 is in 262 you will find, I should have added this on the slide, and I will before I PDF it. This is where all you'll find the utilities. The utilities are considered building services. 263, a grounds department, such as salt, mulch trimmer, supplies, resources needed to maintain our grounds. 266 is security services. This is where you'll find our class 3s, armed, unarmed, our renewals for our maintenance agreements, and some supplies needed just to maintain security in the district. We are proposing in this budget an increase of 3 part-time unarmed guards. Transportation, it's a lot of lines. There's a lot of pluses and minuses. There was a lot of reallocation throughout the transportation department, specifically with our initiative to bring more runs in-house and the staffing to do so. The total department, though, only increased $53,000, considering it's an $8 million budget item. We were okay with their $53,000 proposal. 291 employee benefits. This is overall an even area. There's some increases in some fixed costs, such as our pension contribution to the state, our FICA. As an employer, you have to pay your federal taxes to the state. That's expected to go up. Health insurance, dental insurance, and prescription insurance came in flat or just under. However, with the new personnel we're proposing, you'll see those lines just a smidge up. But overall, very good year for benefits that were going up double-digit increases in the past. So I'm very happy about that. Next is, I have X's where it means many accounts. As long as it starts with an 11, and then a 1, and then a 100, and then a 1, which is a whole next chunk of section, that is specifically general education salary lines. And that is where you'll find full-day kindergarten, the HTA settlement for staff is primarily a big chunk in there, and the insight substitute rate, based on our conversations in the past, increasing their pay rate next year, which was a $212,000 difference. After you get through those, 11, 190, 106, blank. Everything that starts with a 6 is going to be general education, instructional supplies, and textbooks. You will see an increase in this area specifically to support these initiatives. Just to name a few, creative curriculum, Pierce, I'm going to read because I don't know, Pearson IXL Math Pilot for grades 5, 6, updated AP Social Studies text, Science and STEAM lab supplies, fine and performing arts classrooms for K-2 instruction. We talked about the kindergarten initiatives. MacBook replacements for the Comm Academy, which are actually lease purchased. We'll talk about that next. CTE has aviation robotics initiatives, updated health instructional materials for K-5, and an ELL WIDA assessments online. A lot of these things you heard in previous presentations that actually you'll see the different things that made it into the budget. There's a lot of lines of 11,106 blank, which is textbooks and supplies. Because it goes by school, by department, so that's what that is. 11-212, this is our multiply disabled special education program. This is all the staff and resources needed to run our MD program, including in this budget. The increase you're going to see has to do with a curriculum for the autism program, specific for pre-K, starting there, and it's a multi-year rollout that will have pre-K through other grade levels. and the Chrome tablets to support data collection and IP goals for the MD students. 213 is resource rooms, special ed program. This is going to be all the staff and resources needed. Resources for resources. In-class resource, learning resource center, and resource rooms is where you're going to find all this stuff. But a bunch, right? Next, you guys are following along, okay? 11-216, everything in here has to do with our full-time disabled preschool program. This is different than our preschool inclusion program, which is held at Slayball. This is specifically at, right now, Swift and Davenport. Next year proposed to just be at Davenport. This is including creative curriculum addition, specifically curriculum in MD programs was a big addition to this budget to say we recognize we actually need to have a streamlined curriculum for the MD program, and Chrome tablets to support that. 11-230, basic skills. This is their basic skills program. We have level literacy interventions, FMP level text. In these supply lines, which we identified today when we were ready to hit print, there are supplies intermingled in ELA that actually are going to be reduced out of ELA and put into basic skills specifically to support the basic skills supply lines. It'll just be a shift over, not cutting necessarily, okay? That's for next week. 240, bilingual ELL specifically. Again, we talked about the WIDA assessments, and they're doing some finish line curricular materials. I don't know what that is. Your next set of numbers, 11401. Anything with 11401 is specifically district-funded curricular clubs and activities. Separate from boosters, PTA, everything else, this is our stipends for our clubs and activities to run. Elementaries have the Renaissance programs, and middle schools and high schools have several. There were 3 new stipends. That's going to be the difference in the lines for those at the high school. 11402, athletics, district-wide athletics. In this budget, you will see a proposal for these specific stipends. One main one is new is boys volleyball. They've done the research, they've done the data collection, there's interest, there's a girls volleyball, here's a boys volleyball. The other assistant coaches were based on, quote me, I'm gonna quote anybody, safety, numbers of one coach programs that only had one coach and you have multiple levels and safety of the students. We need an assistant coach to be added into these groups. 11-423, this is alternative high school. This is specifically Eagle Academy. Eagle Academy is pretty much stable with their budget. The curricular supplies are to support literacy and STREAM. You'll see some things in there about that. Next set is Fund 12. It's a set of 1-1, it's a 1-2. Anything in 1-2 having to do with equipment. Highlights in there are some transportation equipment, small pieces of equipment they need in that department. Fine and performing arts, refurbished instruments, and some a wood shop tool. Anything in this Fund 12 is because it costs more than $2,000 per unit. We have to track it, tag it, depreciate it for our, however long it's supposed to exist. So it's identified into a separate fund because of that. And that is the end of your binder, but I want to highlight a couple things on facilities if I have a few more minutes. Thank you. So our buildings are old, really old. You're laughing because it's old, but we have done, what was that? 1914. Yes, 1914. So we have done a really good job, and anybody's ever visited any of our buildings, you can see the cleanliness, you can see the upkeep. We've done a really good job maintaining these buildings, but what we call the guts and the bones are very old. Some of them are as old as the building. We had a facilities presentation to prepare for this budget, and I just want to highlight a few of his slides. So, let's do this one first. Some of the bigger projects that were identified through his process, we have identified and said we'd like to use this we used to like to use the funds out of capital reserve to get these projects done. And this is what the list is here. You don't have to look at it all now. You can take it as a digest it, but it's $1.8 million. And you say, how can we do that? And I'll show you in the next slide. Then there were things, which we're going to show the next one, age of buildings. Let me just go there. We have huge pieces of equipment in various buildings, RTUs, chillers, unit ventilators, and split units. There are 662 units. Of the 662 units, do you see how many are over 20 years old? I'm talking big pieces of equipment. Some of the rooftop units at the high school, because we've added on so many times, we will actually to hire probably a helicopter to drop it, because we can't get to it with a crane or anything. So it's going to be very interesting when we go to replace these things, but these are things in coming to a moment where it's going to be a moment, and we're going to have to shut the school because there's not any airflow. So it's something we definitely have to take seriously and definitely have to address very soon. The next set, which is going to take years, a year or two to do, and by that time, your 379 units will be right up there over 20 years. So this came out of our facilities presentation, but I just want to highlight it again because we're going to go into my previous slide and show you what we identified here. This bottom here, we would like to add more solar. We've been working very hard with the architect to talk about different solar methods, and more will follow on this. The board will hear a full plan for, we're calling it a referendum/ESIP specifically for this. A referendum has to go to the community. You all have to approve us to spend more of your tax dollars. We know you're tired of hearing it, so we're going to get very creative, and I believe we can fund this through an ESIP, which is an energy savings improvement plan, which the savings from replacing these antiquated things along with solar will then pay for itself, and there's no permission needed, no tax increase for you. So I do believe we've identified $31 million that we can do that, which if budget goes well, we can put it in one of these meetings and give you more detail. Otherwise, it'll wait till after budget, but we are addressing it. We do know it's taken very seriously. Now, how can we fund those capital reserve improvements of $1.8 million, you ask? I heard you ask it. So if I can make this a hair bigger. No, maybe not that big. You guys are going to get this handout anyway. I went year to year and showed, I wonder if I can make this bigger. I feel like technically challenged right now. There it is. Can I slide it over? There we go. Left to right, I took 2016-17 year all the way through 2021 just to show our balance to start in July, what we've done, and actually I can just do 1 year at a time, right? It doesn't go any bigger than that, guys? All right, I guess not. I really want to make it, oh, there it is. There we go. I'm gonna get this. There we go, perfect. So, starting out with 16-17, it basically goes over the year, our starting balance, what we did to put money in, and how much we took out, and our ending balance is at June 30th. We've done better in some years than others. Here's where we are right now. 2019, we started the year with 1.8 million. I put in italics $1 million because at the end of every year, we earmark a dollar amount to put into capital reserve. I'm asking minimally for $1 million, which will help our balance be a $1.4 million. And if we do the same next year, we will have enough to cover the 1.8 million in capital reserve that was identified, which you guys can take a time to digest. I don't expect you to look at all that now, but there is a way to fund it, and I want to just show that to you. So we went to the devices, age of equipment. Lease purchase is another creative way to fund things that we just can't fit into our budget and pay cash for. We have a lease purchase identified list that is in the very back last page of your binders. And you'll break it out by technology, facilities, and transportation. So technology, the biggest area are going to be High School Comm Academy, as well as Fine and Performing Arts, looking at some Apple products. And then we have the Chromebooks, Chrome carts, and Chrome tablets. Currently, we are as Steve actually last week went over our ratios of what the initiatives are going to be. Currently, we are 2-to-1, grades 3 to 12. Miller School having 1-to-1. We are proposing to go K to 12, kindergarten having tablets, at a 4-to-1 ratio, 3-to-1 ratio, 3-to-1 ratio, and 2-to-1 everywhere else, with Miller staying 1-to-1. That's our proposal in here. And tablets also for the MD program, which I mentioned earlier in the presentation. And you guys will have time to digest this all. I know it's a lot. Facilities, we also identified some more things that we can use, equipment replacements, because as he did identify, we had about $1 million a year he was trying to replace. We got it down to $370,000 on essentials that have to be done next year. Hoping the rest will be shared or figure something else out. And then buses, continue with our bus replacement plan. We have, because of the peaks we had some huge bubbles of bus purchases. We're trying to even that out by buying 8 to 10 a year, and this budget proposes 9. Specifically, we just got 6. We just ordered 6 39 passengers. We're getting an additional 4, along with the regular buses just as a replacement. So, personnel specifics. So this is the personnel request. I don't know if Dr. Charlton wants to add anything to it. I'll just read off of it. We have, outside of the full-day kindergarten list that Dr. Ruccio already presented, we are proposing 2 resource teachers for grade level 3 at Davenport, a behavioral specialist for Alder Middle School. We currently have a behavioral specialist who's part-time that shares between Swift and Slayball. We want to make that one a full-time. An occupational therapist, 2 speech therapists, physical therapists, a director of special ed, and a current supervisor going from 10-month to 12-month. Now, this is a lot, and there's justification for all. I don't know who's going to talk about it now or not, but there's data behind it all. That's just, I'm reading off the screen for now. Support staff, we talked about the 3 security guards. We have a TV station manager who does a very good job helping out Leanna. He's part-time. We've talked about his hours several times at the board level. We're asking for the TV station manager to go from part-time to full-time. And then we have our upcoming events and more meetings to have. But I want to thank the Board of Education for entertaining me, and the business office staff, who I slaved for the past week since we got our state aid numbers, central office, who worked very hard to get us to where we needed to be, building principals and all the curricular areas who helped build this budget, program directors, and of course, the community for believing in us to teach your children. So, questions?
Chandra, thank you so much for putting up with us as well. When I tell you this is a lot of sweat and tears put into this binder, up until just after noon today, we were still fine-tuning in order to make this work. And kudos to you for creative budgeting, being able to look at the lease purchasing, being able to look at your capital reserve, and avoiding the word referendum. Because I will tell you, in our conference room, there was talk like, oh my gosh, there's all these things we need to do. A lot of school districts go out for a referendum to the public to ask for that extra support for full-day kindergarten, to make repairs. But we were able to put that all in a budget that fits, that we present to you as a balanced budget. Again, will there be some growing pains as we move forward? Yes, with any change there is, but I am confident that we're off to a good start, and we're going to make that leap of faith, not only to present, to have everything that we need in this balanced budget, and to begin planning for next year as well, because we know there's things that have to be carried over into that budget. And like I said, and you all saw, the supervisors presented their ideas, and they weren't really off the wall requests. They were all aligned to district learning goals, and we appreciate their efforts. But we went back and said, what do we need now? What can we do next year? What can we do in year 3? So it was a great exercise for them to look at their needs and priorities, if you will. But again, it's a balanced budget presented to you, the Board of Education, based on our student learning goals, and able to fit in our absolute needs in this budget. So thank you.
Thank you both, Dr. Gruccio, Ms. Anaya, and all your staffs for excellent presentations on both the pre-K and full-day K piece, as well as the total budget presentation. A lot for us now to study, come back with our questions. We will have board member questions tonight, but I think since the public has been sitting so patiently for over an hour, what I'm going to do is invite members of the public to come forward with comments or questions, and then we'll go to board member questions. obviously, we're all going to have to study and digest what was presented tonight as we come back and we refine and we mold this towards a finished product. So with that, I'm going to ask any member of the public that has comments or questions, please come forward to the microphone. Give us your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. And so we kind of have, what we do here is we do our best, but we aren't able to answer questions that get into personnel or litigation. If it's a complex question, we may need to get back to you. So with that, please.
Okay, good evening. My name is Ron Anderson. I live at 3042 Spruce Avenue, Egg Harbor Township. Been in Township 50 years as of December. I've been coming to all the meetings for doing the full full kindergarten and what we were doing with the preschool. And I don't care, I'm no Einstein, but I have no clue. I need some answers. Full day kindergarten. When does it start? What time of the morning? And when does it end? Is it a regular 9 to 2:30? And then what are we doing with these children from 2:30 until the end of the day, till 5:30, 6 o'clock, but mom picks them up? And my next question is, in the morning, where does mom drop them off? Are we going to try and open up each one of these kindergartens at a different school in the morning? Or no, we're going to put them in one, what you guys call a latchkey, and then huddle them in one building and then throw them in the buses to take them to their own schools at 9 o'clock? Or are we going to turn around? In other words, what exactly are we doing? 2, kindergartners. The cafeteria, they hate it. They're not going to eat that. Their parents, if you look at the lunches now, their parents are eating it the best I've ever seen in 30 years. These children should bring in their lunch boxes and eat in their classrooms instead of walking down to the cafeteria. I could keep the children in my school for kindergarten right now. I don't. I put them on, we call it the bus, to go over to the big school so that you could see what the hall's like, going into your classroom, seeing what, so you got a rough idea what it is. They're only there for 2.5 hours. But now you're going to turn around and tell me, like for example, November. You've actually had 2 Novembers where you've closed for 8 days in 1 month. There's only 21 days a month, but you closed for 8 of them. I mean, it makes it tough. What's mom going to do with those kids for the 8 days? And everybody's saying, well, no. Well, so you actually have some times where we have the state convention doesn't line up with teacher of the service, so that's 4 days. Then we do voting, and when we turn around and we do Veterans Day, and then we throw in Thanksgiving, and of course Black Friday, and we put it all together. They're not even in school. What are the moms going to do with the children on Christmas holiday during the break? What do they do with them over the summertime or Easter? If you take up a 9 to 2:30 day and you say, oh, I'm saving mom money, oh, she's going to this, she's going to that. I have moms come in, we don't take first graders anymore. And we have moms who come in that will pay the full tuition because they can't miss 1 minute late for coming to pick up their child, or they get a $5 penalty because that's how expensive latchkey is in Egg Harbor Township, and they don't want to do it. So all the time that I've been here to every meeting. I haven't heard anybody address any of these problems. And then now, is the pre-K staying the same way it was? In other words, are we doing a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours here? In other words, is there a difference in it? What exactly are we trying to do?
So I believe most of these questions actually we've answered. I'm going to go ahead to Dr. Gruccio. When you say we, I don't know what you're referring to, sir. You say we do. Who is we?
The program, well, first off, I own the 1 year's preschool for 30 years.
Oh, okay.
And I know exactly how the program goes. Like, for example, do you have one person that's going to be in a classroom with 20 or more children to run that classroom for kindergarten?
Okay, so you run, all right, now I understand.
I mean, no, you don't understand. I'm 68 years old. I'm on my way out the door. In other words, it doesn't make, now, I'm only worried about, I'm concerned with how we're setting up this program. For example.
No, understood. I just wanted to get clarity there.
20 children are so hard. You only have 2 eyes. you can say whatever you want. Like we have staff members that we train them over 5-6 months where then when they come in new, always get you back to the wall. Always sit at a table so that you're facing out in the corner. Always make sure that you got this so that you can see what's going on with it. Social skills. A 4th, 5th, and 6th grade teacher doesn't necessarily, because they have a degree, qualify to turn around and do kindergarten.
Okay, I follow you, sir, so I'm going to let the superintendent respond.
Okay?
Okay, there's a lot of questions there, and as you know, we have discussions before, and I invite you into my office any day, and we'd be glad to sit down with you. But some of the questions as to when we start, when we finish, and in particular, the before and after care program, I'm going to my assistants answer those questions for you as they work closely with those areas.
So probably, I guess, going back well over a year ago, we met here in this very room with the public and invited parents to come in. And this board had charged us with redeveloping and really rebranding our before and after care program. I can sit here and very confidently tell you that I think we probably have one of the best before and after care programs in this county at this juncture in time. Our director and her staff is second to none, and the feedback that we have actually gathered from the community in regards to our program, again, has been nothing but positive. We're prepared to meet the needs of our kindergarten students. Matter of fact, we have open arms, and we're looking forward to being able to meet the needs of those students. Our plans are to, in the morning, meet the needs of the kids in a particular building. So whether at Davenport or Slayball, we actually combine both Swift and Slayball at Slayball Elementary right now, and then they go to their classrooms. In the afternoon, the same would apply. And of course, it would come down to numbers, but our plan would probably be the same, and we'd be able to service the students like we do at Miller School with one pickup, so that way it's more convenient for our community as well. I'd also say that in terms of our days off, we've listened to the community. Matter of fact, on March 13th, we have a professional development day. And it took us probably a few months. We wanted to get this new program up and running. And ultimately, a lot of the feedback from the parents was positive, and we polled them and asked who would be interested in actually participating, even though school was closed for professional development, who would be interested in still bringing their children to the Talents program. We've had a pretty strong response, and we are opening the program. It's going to be both in-house and also a field trip that day. And once we get that under our belt, we plan on also opening for at least 4 of the days during spring recess coming up very soon as well. So those are a lot of the things that we have already been working on behind the scenes to meet the needs, because it's not just about meeting the needs of the students, but also we hear loud and clear what the needs of the community are as well.
Yeah, the preschool program that exists now is staying the same.
Yeah, so I'll answer preschool and some of the other questions. Preschool, we are going to be applying for the preschool expansion grant. So as we design that, there will be evolution and change, especially if we are awarded the funds. We will have to make the change regarding our proposal. So our current preschool program is as is until we apply for the grant and hear back from the state on who receives the grant money. We will not be able to do that until the summertime when they release the grant, and that's been the pattern that they've had for the past 2 years. They release it during the summer, it's due, we find out sometime in August, and then we start the rollout. For the curricular pieces, I can assure you, I'm also very confident in our current staff that we have. According to the slideshow presentation, we have several staff members, pretty much the amount that we need, who are willing to go down to kindergarten. And even though it may seem like we have some upper level staff members who want to go, I can also assure you that we also have some upper level staff that actually started in early childhood education. And that is actually their forte, and they came to our district because of different reasons why they wanted to leave where they were. This is an opportunity for them also to go back to that age group that they really are passionate about. And we already have several that have been in the district at a higher grade level that we have transferred this year to kindergarten, and they're doing a phenomenal job. We also have in the budget built in lots of wonderful research-based strategies as well as programming, curricular materials to support the staff. And then they will be getting lots of wonderful professional development so that we can support them, providing classroom interventions and doing everything that we need to do to support the student as well as the classroom teacher so that they're success for our overall program. With all of that, I am very confident in our current staff that with anybody that I place in the early childhood program that we're establishing here in Egg Harbor Township, they will do fantastic for us and we will see wonderful results.
Good. Good. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else, please?
Jim Burke, 43-year residency of Egg Harbor Township, former principal and teacher. I want to say, first of all, that the presentation tonight was, I think, a culmination of all the things that have been going on the last 2 to 3 years in moving towards this tremendous program that we're hoping to see in this full-day kindergarten. I would like to compliment Dr. Gruccio and all the board members for backing this program and seeing, you know, the clearly that with the type of information you can gather, you know, in terms of the efficacy of kindergarten full day, the benefit that's going to happen not only in kindergarten but K through 12. Okay. And it's going to take time. I know there was one point that was addressed that, you know, first grade might be a little bit, you know, the first one that misses that full-day kindergarten. But again, like anything else, has to work through the process. And, you know, we're starting now, as Mr. Delabarca said, it's been 50 years, but, you know, better late than never. And this program, I think, is going to make a tremendous difference in our school district, and particularly our students. A couple of things real quick. There were so many things that were covered that really made me excited about what's happening here. But in terms of community relief, and I've had conversations with other family members, when we talk about financial relief, I mean, a lot of people are going to be very relieved, not only in terms of their children getting a better education across the board, but money-wise being put out for daycare and different areas. It's been, I mean, I've heard figures up to $10,000 a year people are paying for full-day kindergarten in other places. They can now come home and be in a program that's going to make a difference right here in Egg Harbor Township. Obviously, our moral responsibility is to follow through on this. Using a sports metaphor, it's not over till it's over, and I know, you know, having dealt with budgets before, that it's going to be a process, and there'll be, I'm sure, some concerns about monies being spent here and there. But come September, when that full-day program is in, I don't think you're going to have any problem in garnering the support for that program now and into the future. Okay, so I'm very excited about this. Again, I want to thank the board members and Dr. Gruccio and her staff who have done not only a tremendous presentation tonight, but have seen this process through. And again, there'll be sacrifices, I understand that, but for the most part, our students are going to be beneficiaries from it. And we will now join the 500 plus districts in New Jersey that have full-day kindergarten. And you know, that's what it should be when we talk about a great system. Last thing, teachers, I'm so happy to hear, and I've heard through the grapevine also through my wife who's a teacher here, that teachers are anxious to participate in the full-day program, making some adjustments in where they're going to be going. My kids are 36, but I can tell you I've had great experiences with all the teachers in Egg Harbor Township, so I'm sure whether they come from 6th grade or 3rd grade or whatever, they'll get the skill sets that up to speed to make a difference if they're in the full-day kindergarten program. So that's obviously the crown jewel of our district is the teachers, and the beneficiaries will be our students now and into the future. So I applaud everybody, and I hope this we follow through on this, and that I can think that the days I've spent here speaking with you and going to meetings have made a difference, and I'm sure it will be. So thanks again for all your efforts.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, please? Questions or comments?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Elwell. I live at 28 Tradition Circle. I'm a mom of 6 kids. We've been in the district for 10 years. So my oldest actually went to kindergarten in Middle Township with full day kindergarten. When we moved here, my next 4 kids had half day in HT, and then my little one will be here in, I guess, 3 or 4 years. I'm also a preschool teacher in a different district. I started working there in 2001. And the last 3 years, I was out of the classroom. I'm still in the early childhood department. I'm considered master teacher, which is basically an academic coach for the early childhood department. We have had full day kindergarten for 3 and 4-year-olds, or full day preschool for 3 and 4-year-olds. So having a full day, I don't think is very difficult. But the one thing that we have concerns about in our district is that kindergarten teachers say, although our students went to full day preschool for 2 years, they're not ready for kindergarten. And as a preschool teacher, I really am concerned about that because that's my job for 2 years to teach the little ones, and then they tell me they're not concerned. This past February, part of my job is to have to plan the professional development for early childhood, and we were actually able to have a transition meeting with kindergarten. And the one thing we noticed was that the schedule from preschool to kindergarten is very different. We follow what the state wants because we are former Abbott. So in our preschool classroom, they have 2 hours of center time, which is play, obviously integrated with teaching. They don't know that they're being taught, but we do. They have an hour of gross motor, an hour of rest. Any teacher-instructed direct instruction is limited to about 20 minutes tops. When they go to kindergarten, they're now faced with 90 minutes of ELA, 60 minutes of math, 35 minutes of science, 35 minutes of social studies. I think they get 20 minutes outside and they get no rest time. So really, it's not that we aren't doing our job, it's that the expectations in the kindergarten classroom in our district are really hard for them to transition. So I know I saw the schedule that was, posted up there. It was really quick, so I didn't get to see all of it. I did see that there was something like an hour of ELA with social studies integrated into it. But I guess my question is, are you looking to maybe make sure that it's following the DOE guidelines for kindergarten? Because there are guidelines. It says there should be centers, there should be dramatic play. I saw on the video that right now, I know we have half day. Our kindergarten classrooms are just tables, but there should be a block center, an art center, a science center. So is that a vision?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes, but I'm going to turn the details over to Dr. Gucci.
Okay. Yes, absolutely, it is a vision. I mean, Mr. Davis can share particulars because he's been through every classroom and looked at schedules and curriculum, but absolutely, that is a vision. Again, it is a process getting there. I am a proponent of no rows, so what we do in our elementary schools, we're seeing more at the high school and the middle school levels, but in terms of seating and centers and that's what we're about. Again, it's a process. Are we 100%? We're getting there. So Mr. Davis, I don't know if you add on to that.
Yes, absolutely. So my background is early childhood. I was in a district that did the pilot for the state when they were thinking about doing the Teaching Strategies Gold through 3rd grade. Mm-hmm. And I've also been in another district with a pilot with special education for preschool and kindergarten to use the Eckert's model to get highly rated. So that is what I believe in. What I gave you on a schedule in that detail was a very loose schedule for people to pretty much look at and understand and walk away from. From our lens, it's going to mirror a lot of the philosophies of the preschool program in the sense of the integration, creative play, making sure that we are not necessarily doing so much direct instruction. It is all about the small group instruction and facilitating and getting the students to be able to develop the skills that they need to. That is Right now, in our current half-day program, we weren't able to necessarily do that. With having a full day, we have much more flexibility. So when you see integration, it is really truly about the integration. We do have in the budget set aside money so that we can actually build up our creative play, because like you saw in that picture, we do not currently have that in any of our kindergarten programs. So we need that in the classrooms, and it's going to be a multi-year rollout as well. We're going to purchase a base, I guess a base stock item, I'll call it. And then next year, we're going to purchase more materials for that to grow in all those classrooms because it's extremely important. The only thing that is not necessarily built in is that rest period, but we are using the kindergarten expectations from the state, looking at the transition from the preschool creative curriculum process that we have, and expanding upon that so that we can really look at that social development component, because I do believe in that work that the state was doing at a couple years ago. So we are moving in that direction here in EHC as well.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Anyone else, please?
Hello, Bob DeLita, 55 Marshall Drive. So one question and maybe one comment, and maybe a couple questions. So I guess the comment is, I've been here many other years where we walked in the first budget round and it's been millions of dollars above cap even. So I think you guys did a great job of getting it down, a balanced budget at cap. So that's a lot of great work, which means to me at least now the work begins for the board to get down below cap if that's possible. Especially in light of an additional 12.5% of funding from the state this year, and the governor being really clear about the additional funding being for tax relief. So I would hope, I'll be optimistic that you can, as a board, take a really close look at this budget and see if there are any places we can really work to get down to cap. So that's my comment. Next one, so the full-day kindergarten we've been talking about, for years. It's come a long way. Am I correct to assume that if this gets approved, that line item gets approved in the budget, that means that's the approval for full-day kindergarten in this district?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Last question. I think that there's a PDF version of this budget. Is it possible for the public to have a copy of that?
It'll be on the website. I'm not sure if tonight because our IT department will buy tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you.
And if I could just make one comment, I know we're not supposed to respond, but we brought you a balanced budget, but this started with close to $12 million. That's where we were compared to last year. We brought it down to $6 million over. So we did the hard work already. It wasn't that easy.
Very good. Thank you, thank you. Anyone else? Comments or questions from the audience?
Kathy Wasson. I just want to talk to the board personally and tell you that should everything go well and you can pass this budget and vote for this budget, you will make history in Egg Harbor Township. I am a true-blooded kindergarten teacher in my heart, and I know the benefits this is going to do for our district. So though you are going to be faced with some trying situations with class sizes and other material needs that may come along, I want you to remember that you are breaking ground, making history, and with that you're going to have some pains and growing pains. I want to thank Jim Burke for mentioning the excellence of our staff. I want to thank John Davis for also mentioning the excellence of our staff. I have no doubt at all that our staff can handle this and just make us better than we are right now. I'm in those kindergarten classes a lot, and I'm in that hallway, and I see centers and I see teachers working really hard, talking in the hallway about how they can improve things. We have the best staff. So give them the opportunity to show you, and give Egg Harbor Township the opportunity to have full-day kindergarten. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No doubt about it, we have the best staff. No doubt about it. Any other members of the public, comments or questions? Yes, please.
My name is John Servant. I live on Tremont Avenue. The one area I know about that is the technology area with the Lend-Lease. And there's two cautions that I want to say with that. I work with technology. And the two cautions I'm going to say is in complete ignorance to where you guys are at, what you guys have technologically wise, and so take it with a grain of salt. But the first caution is this, keeping up with the Joneses. Being in technology, I always want the latest, the greatest, the best thing out there. The problem is that most of the time, that's completely over what we need. Working technology, I understand there's different generations of technology. For instance, with TVs, you had black and white TV, and that was for about 50 years. Color TV was about 30 years. Then you had HD TV, which was about 10 years. Now we're at 4K TV. I just bought a 4K TV, and now I see an 8K TV. Generations are constantly flipping over and over and over and over again, and it's getting faster, where what we are buying now is outdated. And so one of the things I got to say there is keeping up with the Joneses, understand that, you know, we're basically in a generation of 2015 and up, where if we were to go back and buy something that's 2-3 years older, not older as if in use, but older as if in the technology came out 2-3 years ago, it'll be massively cheaper. One of the things I saw on their line budget item was the 27-inch Mac computer for TV broadcasting. On there, it said $4,000. I don't know what the limitations or what you guys need for that, but I can tell you as someone that does that stuff, you could actually get something a little bit cheaper. And so my first question there would be who's auditing that to make sure like each one of those line items is the proper amount, proper area spent. Who's doing that? Because that one's a little bit interesting to me because especially for broadcasting, Apples are better for editing, but Windows are more stable for broadcasting. And so when I see that, I was just a little bit concerned about that, looking up there. But like I said, once again, I don't know what you need. If you're using Final Cut Pro to export it, that's proprietary software for Apple. And I'm not trying to speak over your heads. I see a few guys looking at me like confused. But the first thing is this: understand this. That when it comes to technology, the latest and greatest is often not what's needed. And so you can go back a few years, and it would significantly lower the budget. And the second thing is this: a lot of times, know how to use what we have first. I'm a guitarist. I always want to go out and buy a new pedal. It's just the way I am. The problem is a lot of time I don't even know how to use what I have. And so like I said, it's just looking through that technology area, it just seemed a little bit high to me. But and I was just wondering who's overlooking that. But at the same time, I don't know what you guys need. And I appreciate all you guys do. But if there's an area that could be used a little bit of adjustment, I think that area could be one of them. So thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. And I'll just, I don't know if Chandra, if you want to jump in, but it's our supervisors in our different subject matter areas that look over their portions of the budget, then up to Chandra and her staff to once again audit and look over in general terms. But if you want to add more.
So with technology, the one thing we have found with lease purchasing over the years, and a lot of it is more infrastructure, buying our Ethernet, what are they called? Switches, thank you, having a moment. It's been a lot of infrastructure. 3 years ago, we did a Chromebook initiative, and we're doing a similar one now 3 years later with some laptops in there. Specifically, the iMac Pro 27-inch is for the TV studio. We have to look into see the exact purpose, but it's up to them to look into it. The pricing they give is, unfortunately, we can't get the best pricing out there, which is usually online because we have purchasing laws and have to buy from government vendors and things like that. So I'm pretty sure there's a less expensive one out there. We are, as a district, don't usually buy latest and greatest outside of our infrastructure. So the biggest part of this almost $600,000 budget is WAN links, bandwidth, Ethernet switches, and Roku smart zones, whatever. So it's a lot of bigger infrastructure things. There's very few Chromebooks and laptop technology, which is just really a replacement from 3 years ago. So as a whole, we're still doing Chromebooks. We're not getting the latest, greatest Chromebook. We're getting the same Chromebooks you guys are using right now. But thank you for that, and we will take it back to our ITS director.
Anyone else from the public? Questions or comments?
Ryan Smith, 57 Shoreline Road. First, I want to be the first to report our high school boys basketball team won tonight 16 seed over the number 1 seed. That's a huge thing. But, you know, that dude Jim's awesome. So he said so many great things, Kathy as well. I just want to echo their words and thank the Board of Education, the administration for taking care of business. And we look forward to moving on throughout the rest of the year. I am a proud educator at the high school, an alumni of this school district, as well as now a taxpayer and parent. And I'm very proud to be EHT and hashtag EHT pride. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Comments or questions?
Leona Congle. I live at 2028 Winterberry Road. I just wanted to thank you guys for putting together a budget that includes full-day kindergarten. I've come to several of these meetings and listened to the presentations. And I think you guys have had some really awesome presentations. I've learned so much. You guys you really are. They were great presentations. But I'm really looking forward to the school board approving this budget that brings in full-day kindergarten. I think it's going to be great for all of our students, and even the ones who aren't there yet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, please?
How you doing? My name is Paul Sperano. Ooh, a little shock there. Paul Sperano, 9 Fairfax Road, Echo Township. I've been here 43 years in the township. I just wanted to start, a few questions I had, but I wanted to say is that the gentleman up here was talking about talent earlier, and I have an older son who went through the old kids club, was managed, I guess, by an outside source, and then now I have the talent, I've been in these meetings, and it's like night and day. And I will tell you that the talent program now is light years ahead of what it was before. The kids are learning, the kids are seeing things. Like they had, I'll tell you this, when I went in a couple times, they had the Franklin Institute there, I guess a little on wheels that pulled up, did all these experiments and these things, and the kids were all huddled around. I mean, the kids were like glued. There was like not a sound in the room. And then there was another with the Eco Lab, going over recycling and teaching kids about the recycling and what they should be doing at home and stuff. So there was a lot of really neat things that go on from time to time. Not every day is Franklin Institute there, but they do a good job of breaking things up and doing a good the way to mix things that what the kids are learning. And I think the difference is what I see is my older son, when I picked him up from kids club, he used to run to me. And my other son is like dragging, walking behind, doesn't even want to come. But I was thinking the older one did it because he loved me and missed me. But then if the younger one, what does the one now think of me? So I'm thinking it's because he doesn't want to leave town. So on that, it's just really difference in it, and I hear a lot of good things from other people and other parents about it, so it was a good job. That being said, a couple questions I had, and I saw up there in some of the budgets, that the Miller had in the budget for the parking lot, and I don't know what it's like or what's entailed in that, and I'm guessing you already addressed it. I didn't really want to say nothing, so I saw it in there. I wanted to ask. It's kind of a little chaotic at the end of the day, picking up at Miller. And people just park anywhere. It's very limited parking. When it rains, it's even worse. People don't want to walk in the mud because they're like, the area is not really a parking lot. On the one side where the younger kids. If you go on the other side, there's all clean parking all over where you go. On the one side, part of it's used as a playground, but also people want to park as close as possible. So that aspect that they don't want to pull up in the mud and rocks, they just pull right up to the curb and everybody's running and kids are running in and out of cars. So that's the concern I had with that. The other thing is there was the gentleman or young lady was up here speaking about the preschool, and I didn't know, they didn't really talk much about it, but was there a thought or down the road to look for a full day preschool? Or was that going to be something addressed later? You don't have to address it now if you're going to address later. I'm not asking. And I did want to say that with Sandra and Dr. Gruccio, like those presentations were really good. They were amazing. Like that, you guys. Like I remember when last year I was here, you're like, oh, we want to hit the ground running as soon as we get that budget money, and you guys basically did hit the ground running because within days you were here with your presentation of knowing what was going on. So that was a great job. And I just wanted to, so that was my complimentary sandwich with my questions. Just learning that from my volunteer. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. So I guess we'll just try to address Miller briefly. Yeah, we have infrastructure needs in the district for certain. Go ahead.
So
John.
Miller's parking lot, for anybody who's ever been to Miller, there's not enough space for our own staff, let alone parents. So the idea is closer to the retention detention, Neal's Pond, we're going to be expanding some parking. We're hoping to expand some parking there, just really for safety too. There was an accident, I guess it was a year or two ago with a parent too. So that's a big safety concern with not having enough parking spaces. That's in the capital reserve budget.
The opposite side there was the opposite side was the one where that was more like even less parking. So when all the kids are coming, and if you're adding kindergarten, the probably numbers are going to be bigger. Town on the one side, where the first and third go, that's where the very limited parking is. That's what I was saying.
Behind
Okay.
the building, I think is right. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
All right,
Yeah.
so we'll connect a little bit if we need some more detail on that. Anyone else in the public?
Hi, Julia Hunter, 215 Windswept Drive, Egg Harbor Township. I've been in the township for 7 years, and when I moved here, many people told me, do not move to Egg Harbor Township. They do not have full-day kindergarten. And I thought, oh, that's no big deal. But when it came time for my son to go to kindergarten, it was a huge deal. He was almost 6 years old because his birthday's in November. So I think having full-day kindergarten in this township would do huge things for the reputation of Egg Harbor Township and of its schools. I think this would be a great improvement for parents, for students, and for the community in general. So thank you, and I really hope you guys get this passed.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
My name is Nishta Kohli. I live at 45 Bartlett Boulevard in Egg Harbor Township. I want to thank Dr. Gruccio and Chandra for the wonderful presentation. It was really, really informative, and I think I have a lot to tell my husband when I go back home tonight. I really hope the board does approve the kindergarten, full-day kindergarten, because I have a second grader, and I love the school district. I think it has served her well, and I see her peers. All of them are doing wonderful in this district, and I think all their needs are met. And I feel the kindergarten, full-day kindergarten is the last missing piece of the puzzle, so I really hope the board does approve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Seeing none. Board members, is there anything, any questions, anything we'd like to cover, or do we want to maybe wait till get our questions together? All right, go ahead, Lou.
Chandra, just explain, I think I ask this question every year at budget time. Could you explain again to everybody here and viewers on TV, what happens if the 2%, if we do not go to cap? How does that affect our future, and why it's so important to maybe we have been going to cap over the last several years? Because I do think it's a serious concern. The public knows that we got this $6.some million for tax relief and how that all might work out. So I think we need to hear the ramifications of not going to the cap if there are any.
So at this point, with the balanced budget, the ramifications would be to cut about $1.6 million out of this budget that you would then not be able to build upon for future years. So it's impacting this budget and every future budget by that same amount. When you can raise your cap by 2%, it's the base amount times 0.02, so it's compounding that 1.6 million over the next X many years.
Thank you. And Mr. President?
Can I comment on the
I'm
6
sorry, go ahead.
million? Yes. The governor did make an announcement that 6 million was a form of property tax relief. So in other words, it's coming through the school district, so we don't have to go out to the taxpayers and ask for that money. It's incorporated into our budget, so we can do great things like implement full-day kindergarten, roll over our expenses, so we don't have to go out for that referendum. So it is a form of property tax relief. It's not for property tax relief. It's same pair of
It's
hands
built
if you
into
will.
your budget.
It's built
yeah,
in, thank you.
May I make one other comment? Can I contain myself tonight? You know, I've been here how many years in this town? Since 1970? I started when I was 15, right? Excitement, and you know I was a kindergarten principal for many years in the town, and I'm so excited that this possibility is going to happen next school year. I can't contain my enthusiasm. I have to thank Jim Burke. He's been so loyal to us over the years and coming out to push this. Kathy Wazin, I know, well, we go way back, what a dedicated teacher and how supportive you are of this program. And I just know that our teachers are outstanding. Whatever teachers go into that kindergarten program are going to do the job, counting on Mr. Davis to make sure that happens. And our reputation at VHT is outstanding as a school district. We have people moving in here because of special ed programs, and now they're going to be moving in because of our full-day kindergarten program. And that's great for our economy, that's great for our town, great for our reputation. And I can't contain myself, but I'm very excited about this whole thing, and it's a good time for all of us. So thank you, Dr. Gruccio, your entire staff did a great job in the presentations. Ms. Anaya, the presentation science were outstanding. We have a lot of work to do yet, but boy, is it going to be fun too, I think, at the same time. We're going to celebrate in September somehow when that happens. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just have a comment, not a question. I just wanted to thank the administration, the staff, Chandra, everybody that worked so hard on this budget, and we appreciate all the hard work that you did do to put into it. And now it's our time to get busy, as Lou was saying, and we have to sit down and go over all the information. I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions. So I just wanted to thank everybody for their patience tonight and for coming out. Good night. Thank you.
Ms. Gilbert-Ford.
I agree with everyone that just spoke about how excited the possibility of full-day kindergarten. But I just wanted to ask, I think when the presentation about full-day kindergarten, I know some people were like saying to themselves, wow, the class sizes for kindergarten starting off the school year kind of high, and then the anticipation of new registrations. But I guess my question is, how many registrations do we currently have, people that did a pre-registration in comparison to the possibility of the number of slots that we could have? As far as
Well, I always look
She
to
has
Mr.
that.
Santilli because
Yeah.
I have a number, but it changes all the time, so I'm gonna ask for the up-to-date number at this moment.
So as of today, if you're looking for a hard number in regards to online registrations and also roll-up, we're looking at 287.
Okay.
However, a lot of conversation has been, and to be fully transparent, a lot of conversation has been that until some members of the community see this come to full circle and full fruition, they weren't going to go through that formal process until that happened. So a lot of our estimates, of course, we worked hard at taking a look at birth rates, our current class sizes, roll-up of preschool, as well as our current first and second grade population. So a lot of those factors went into our anticipated enrollment.
So you kind of did on the high end of possibly enrollment, because I do know there is a syndrome that happens in the summer. It's called the yellow bus syndrome. And people, September, in the summer and September, it's like, oh, that's right, I need to enroll my kids in kindergarten. It happens everywhere. So I'm just thinking that we just have to make sure I know we did the low, the high end, and we don't have as many registrations now, but I just want to make sure that you're prepared to receive those students. And
I'd also add that Dr. Gruccio had hinted to it when she was concluding her presentation, but once this is moved forward and completed and we have that green light, I can tell you that if you thought our marketing plan initially was fun, we're certainly going to be coming up with something even more enticing and make sure we spread that word because it is such great news.
So be prepared for it. They're coming. If you build, they will come. I can see it.
Who's next? Okay, Mr. Sullivan.
We were challenged, we actually do a self-board evaluation, and this year we were challenged with the finance department being more transparent. And I can't thank Chandra enough and Kim enough that we challenged them to have someone come, a department head, come to each meeting. I know our meetings have been running long, but we have had presentations from every department head. I think every department head. And they have given us the vision and the means that they will need to provide those visions to our children. And this budget is looking really good, and I hope the board really sees it not as complex, but as really laid out before them. Thank you, Sean.
Mrs. Byrne?
I just wanted to just say how impressed I am with our administration and superintendent, everyone, because you not only brought the data, you included our community in the process. And throughout every kindergarten meeting we had, you took the feedback from the community, you amended your plans, and now you presented a wonderful product and something that you should be so proud of. And I think that we as board members sitting up here have the privilege to be a part of this for our community is something that's very special. And as a parent of a student who really struggled in kindergarten, she needed more time to learn how to read. I am so thrilled that we may be able to give students like my daughter more time to develop her literary skills. And as a kindergarten teacher, I think about my students that I have in a full day program and the excitement that they bring to school every day, because it's not just worksheets and sitting there and drilling and assessments. It is like developing them from the inside out, and having that time, being able to give that time to our students is a beautiful thing. So I'm very excited. Thank you for all your hard work.
Any other board members? Anyone else? Any closing thoughts from board members or administrators before we look to adjourn for tonight?
Just what's next in the budget process. We have another meeting next Tuesday to go over all this fun stuff again. Is there going to be, I don't know what process, we want to have questions by Friday or by Monday, or I don't know what to expect. What am I bringing next week? That's all.
I think we would stay, so next, we have a work meeting, correct?
Correct.
Followed by a regular meeting. The following Tuesday then would be another special budget meeting.
Correct.
If I have that laid out correctly.
Correct.
So I think we will use our Monday close of business for questions. Does that work?
I just wanted to make sure
For
we're all on the
everyone?
same page.
So we can start with budget questions to you from board members for this week and
Just evolve it. Thank you.
continuing as we move forward, if that works for everyone. No.
So just to be clear, those questions would be emailed, just like the questions are emailed prior to board meetings in reference to the agenda. So this would be your working document. You create your questions and then direct them to myself. You can copy Ms. Anaya and Mr. Castellano.
Good. Yes.
I just want to make sure I have my times right. So the 10th is a regular work meeting, so 6 o'clock. But then you said the budget meeting for the 17th, that was moved to 7 p.m., is that right?
The 10th and the 17th are work session, and regular will be here 6 o'clock for executive, 7 o'clock for in the public.
Okay.
The 24th is a special budget meeting starting at 7.
And that's at 7, okay, thank you.
Anyone else? With that, I think we had a very, very productive meeting. Wonderful presentations. I'm very happy with the direction that we're heading in, and believing that we should quit while we're ahead. I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion and a second. I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. please come back. We have more meetings. You know the schedule. Please come back and see us.
We're out.